Have you ever had a thought that made you stop and wonder, what kind of a person even thinks that kind of thing? Maybe it was something violent, something very upsetting in some way, or just, deeply uncomfortable. And, in that moment that it appeared, you really kind of felt sick to the stomach with guilt. You told yourself, I'd never act on that, but the thought stuck anyway, circling back with that same question. What if this means something awful about me? And this is one of OCD's most painful tricks. It takes what you value most, your sense of morality, and twists it against you. You start analyzing, replaying memories, or confessing to others, desperate to prove you're still a good person. But the more you try to prove it, the guiltier you feel. OCD hijacks your conscience and convinces you that your thoughts define you, when in truth, they're just passing mental phenomena, and they're nothing more than that. Back when I was still really struggling, I became really afraid of my thoughts. I was so concerned with what my imagination would conjure up next. It was very good at giving me intrusive thoughts that I really disagreed with, that I really found very difficult to tolerate. And it did this because it knew that I would start ruminating about it. When those really horrible thoughts would come up, something would kind of trigger in my stomach. I would feel really sick to the core of my being. And I would feel that I would have to figure it out. I wouldn't allow that anxiety to be. I wouldn't allow the uncertainty of it to be. I kind of felt that, in order for me to be a good person, I had to figure this out. There was no way I could kind of move on. And I think this is one of the problems sometimes that people, when they first learn about acceptance and OCD, well, often they don't want to actually practice acceptance, because I think there's a fear there that, people kind of think, well, if I accept these kinds of horrendous thoughts that I really dislike, that I really disagree with, if I start accepting them, then what if then I actually start acting on them? And I think this is a very common fear that many people with OCD experience. The reality is, though, when we talk about accepting these thoughts, we're not really talking about accepting the content of them. Of course, those thoughts are really horrible and, you do not agree with them at all. But what we are talking about is accepting the difficult emotions that come up with those thoughts. The anxiety, the uncertainty, the disgust, the shame. All of those things are, they're there, they're present, but they're not fair because you don't actually resonate with those thoughts at all. It's so important to realize that, these thoughts that you're experiencing are the absolute opposite of what you want to have. When you really understand that and you start practicing acceptance, not of the thoughts, but of the difficult emotions, of the anxiety, of the uncertainty, of the shame, of the guilt, you begin to understand that, you're experiencing this stuff because actually you're a good person. If you, really were a bad person and these difficult thoughts were coming up, well, you wouldn't have shame about them. You wouldn't have guilt about them. The fact is that you are a good person, and that's why these difficult emotions are coming up. And so the best thing that you can learn to do with that is to learn how to feel it, to acknowledge it, to try to move towards it even, and to start tolerating and accepting it. Once you can do that, once you can bring acceptance and compassion to these difficult emotions, you begin to kind of move past them. And this is something that I had to learn myself. It was very, very difficult at first, but over time, as you practice acceptance with these things, you really begin to see the truth that, these are just intrusive thoughts and you don't need to pay them so much attention. If this resonates with you and you'd like to take the next step, my Break Free from OCD program is a 12-week course that helps you to understand the OCD cycle, manage rumination, and build real confidence through acceptance and purposeful action. It includes guided meditations, practical exercises, and tools to help you create lasting change. You can find all the details and apply at robertjamescoaching.com, and you can book in there as well for a free discovery call. The truth is that guilt doesn't prove guiltiness. It proves that you care. OCD attacks the things you value most. So instead of fighting to feel innocent, the real healing comes from allowing the doubt to be there without trying to solve it. When you notice a guilt-based thought this week, try to take a breath and say, there's that guilty feeling. It's okay for it to be here in the background. Then gently redirect your focus to something that matters to you in the present moment, ideally a valued activity. And that's how you teach your brain that guilt and intrusive thoughts are not emergencies. You don't need to prove your goodness all the time by overthinking things and getting caught up in rumination. So I really hope that you enjoyed that one. If you have any questions at all, do please let me know. And remember, if you want to book in for a free discovery call to find out about my program, you can by heading over to robertjamescoaching.com. There's a link in the show notes. Many thanks, and I'll see you next time. This video is for education only. It's not therapy or medical advice. If you're struggling, please speak with a licensed mental health professional.